Well, let's go sailing now on Sydney Harbour. Now take yourself back some 4 centuries plus to 1606. The first European ship to enter Australian waters was the Duyfken. Today we're sailing on a replica of the Duyfken. Now this is a real hands-on experience, turned on every weekend by the National Maritime Museum. They even let paying passengers like me take the helm.
Mind your ears!
Now that looks like a toy trumpet, but it's actually the instrument the skipper uses to warn other ships that the Duyfken is about to turn starboard. And the skipper is Marty Woods.
All right, Greg, if we can just hold us steady.
Holding steady.
Just on the eastern end of Goat Island there will be lovely at the moment.
Now these are old-fashioned controls. I've got a huge timber stick here.
You have a whipstaff. Now this is the only vessel on Sydney Harbour that has a whipstaff, and probably the only vessel in Australia. Now, of course, Holland does have a couple of replica ships, and they will have whipstaffs as well. But out here, if you want to get on a whipstaff, you've got to get aboard Duyfken, straight from the Australian National Maritime Museum.
So much of what's on board here now was on the original Duyfken back 4 centuries ago, but you've got one advantage over them. You've actually got power controls.
At the moment, yes, we have got one huge advantage. We are using a little bit of diesel. We're getting her upwind, and we're going to get her in a position where we can set sail.
So Marty, this is an experience that you can offer your passengers to actually get behind the helm, to be the helms.
Absolutely. Oh, look, if they're keen to get down below there and hang on to a big whipstaff, please come along and have a go. You'll be fighting the crew, of course. We've got a great volunteer crew that are pretty experienced, but they'll give you a bit of a lesson and show you how to hang on.
So you're the skipper, but you don't get behind the helm. You're up on the deck there, just watching all around you.
As the master, you unfortunately don't get your hands on too many things because, well, except for the horn, because you are overall command of the vessel. So you're watching the helm, you're watching the setting of the sails, you're watching the crew. So yeah, you've got to keep your mind and your eyes around everything. So the poor old skipper doesn't get to climb, doesn't get to get behind the wheel, just has to sit here and smile.
So Marty, how is this experience for you as a veteran sailor?
Oh look, Duyfken is absolutely phenomenal. Being from the 1500s, 16th century, there isn't many ships, and especially in Australia, you just don't get this experience. So getting on board Duyfken is just really a step back in time. Look at her. I mean, just look around the old girl. She is so authentic. Even the crew.
Lots of ropes to pull on the Duyfken. Barking out the rope pulling instructions is Miriam Hildeman, who's been a vital part of Duyfken for the past 13 years.
We started in 2009 and we've lived on board for 5 years, and we've gone wherever the wind blew us and where finances was, and we moved all the way around Australia. So we started in Brisbane, then ended up in Cairns, then back to Brisbane, spent nearly a year here in Sydney, then went to Fremantle for 8 years, and then in 2020 the museum got Duyfken, and now we've been here for nearly 2 years.
How long do you intend staying with them now?
As long as they will have me, and as long as the ship will have me.
So you know your ropes?
Yes.
And there's a lot of ropes?
Yes.
How many ropes?
In total, without counting all the little bits that hold the ship together, it's over 4 kilometres. And every line has its name, and every line has a purpose, and every line has a task and a normal.
So let's run through the instructions you're giving today. So first of all, you've got all the volunteers on the ropes over here, and you're giving them instructions. What are they doing?
So they'll be raising the forecourse. So that's the big yard and this big sail that's connected to it. So they'll have to raise it up first before we can set it. So they'll be hauling on the halyard, and we use the terms of 260.
Hey! 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 Hey!
So once the yard is raised all the way to the top, we'll send 2 sailors up that will take down the casket, that will loose the sail. After that, we'll drop the clewlines, and then the corners will drop down. We'll haul on the sheets, and then we'll set the sail.
The Duyfken is staffed by volunteers, which today include Peter Chum. Peter, you're a volunteer.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I love things maritime and nautical, and I like explaining things, and this is an opportunity of doing both. So I can learn about the vessels at the museum, I can learn about this vessel, I can sail this vessel, and I can talk to people and explain how great life is now and how horrible it was back in the 1500s.
So how are these older ships?
Well, I think they're great fun to sail now, if it's just a day sail. But there's no modern comforts. I mean, they hadn't invented the hammock at the time this was built. They hadn't invented the wheel. They hadn't invented the toilet. So if you go on Endeavour, you've got heads out the front. This thing hasn't even got those. They hadn't got a proper galley. You could maybe have a hot meal on once a week if you were lucky. And the rest of the time you were eating dried foods and month-old cheeses and things like that. So it would have been really, really hard for the original sailors aboard this ship. So it's really hard life back in those days. Nowadays we've got it easy. Because it's licensed to carry passengers, it's got engines, it's got freezer, it's got a modern galley with a gas stove. And we still don't have hammocks, but at least they let you put a proper bedroll out, as opposed to just sleeping on the hard deck with a scrap of tarpaulin over you if you're lucky.
Hey, perfect. Hey, perfect. Hey, perfect. Hey.
The Duyfken, sailing history out of the National Maritime Museum on Sydney Harbour.